I woke to the sound of bones studying me. It was a careful sound, an inventory of clacks and thin scrapes, as if the dead ran their fingers across me to count how much I had left. I learned in those first cold minutes that the dead are precise. They do not waste the motion it takes to pity. My name is Aldren Marrowe. I was a field surgeon of Lordaeron, the kind who stitched more living than he buried, the kind who could keep a boy on his feet by closing a wound with a prayer and a needle thicker than pride. Now I serve beneath Naxxramas, in the rooms where frost gathers in a throat and never melts. I catalog bodies for conversion. I scribe runes I do not deserve to touch. I tend the phylacteric wards that hum like bees made of ice. I live because Kel'Thuzad allows it, and I speak because he needs a mouth to say the sums he does not care to count. He calls me Marrowe, savoring the irony, as if he had chosen me for the name alone, as if the Scourge had curated me like a tool. The truth is simpler and uglier. I was taken when the necropolis first shadowed the fields outside Andorhal, when light failed in a sky that had not yet learned to be ashamed. They brought me up through traps like teeth into Naxxramas, and I breathed the necrotic ash and the formaldehyde hymn, and thought of my hands. I arose to work on the third bell, because the necropolis is ruled by bells that ring with a frost-bitten patience. When they toll, the runes bruise the air, and we servants move. The other acolytes shuffled past me, their lips puckered by chill, their eyes clinging to orders. I learned to imitate their stillness. I learned to shave my fear to the bone so it would squeak instead of sing. I was assigned to the bone forges first, then the plague labs, and finally the sanctum, where Kel'Thuzad's phylactery hums behind runes that would flay a breath if I exhaled carelessly. They told me he had more sancta than I had bones, but this one is the one he visits when he desires the theater of fear. I have stood in his presence 5 times at distance. I have spoken to him twice across the width of a table where I laid my ledger. I have knelt once, and I do not yet know if I rose. The bone forges are not for forging bones, not exactly. They are for persuading bone to be more than bone. The tables are iron, the drains are generous, and the chains do not squeal. They hum at a frequency one feels in the sinus. The forge master is an abomination called childless. He hums a lullaby as he clamps a femur in place, as if the bone would cry if it had a mouth. I cleaned his tools because I was a surgeon, and because you do not truly stop being anything you once were. Not here. The tools are a joke told slowly. Rib spreaders that ratchet forever. Mallets that can be swung with hands not attached to bodies. Hands not attached to bodies. In the plague labs, I met a man who remembered his own name. He was a necromancer of the third circle, his mouth perfumed heavy with blight as if it were incense. He smiled as if blood and love were equivalents. "You are Marrowe," he said, not asking. "You come to us with fingers that know denial. We will train them to say yes." I copied filigreed runes from a page that shook. I labeled specimens harvested from soldiers who had called to mothers with the same tongue they used to pray. I made ink with powdered bone and bile. I learned in those rooms how to prevent a living heart from clotting while we asked it questions. The answers were slow. The answers were always yes. Loatheb's spores were thick in the tanks by then. He throbbed behind green glass like a cathedral rotting from the inside out. The air fizzed if you breathed too deep. We wore visors that we pretended filtered hope. Naxxramas is not a place, it is a logic. The halls twist because obedience is not a straight line. The floor hums because a necropolis must pretend it has a pulse. The frost worm Sapphiron sleeps above like winter hanging itself from the ceiling. The arachnid quarter clicks with patient arithmetic. The military quarter trains the dead to remember formation. Because even when a limb falls off, there is a shape the Scourge wishes it to take. In the construct quarter, Patchwork giggles while he calls for more play, and Thaddeus whispers with the voices of those stitched into him. I remember the moon. I was kissed once. I was held. The dead are patient. The dead remember. When Kel'Thuzad first addressed me, he did not say hello. He does not greet. He declares. His voice came from everywhere and nowhere, like a cold that decided to teach language to a room. Aldren Marrowe, he said, you had a steady hand. We will see if steadiness remains when the pulse is removed from the patient. I stood at the table with my ledger open. The pages were vellum that had once been part of someone. This is not metaphor. My hand remains mine, I said, because I learned long ago that priests and kings like bravery from those they intend to break. It increases the taste. Bravery is a flavor I no longer notice, he replied. Open the wards. I wish to feel my phylactery, to ensure it sings at the correct pitch. The warding lattice is a geometry of cruelty. It is tuned to the absence of life, a series of negations arranged into a shape. I have the privilege of tending it. There are 5 circles, each etched with runes that look like frost petrifying breath. I place reagents at the margins, ground obsidian, ash from a priest's tongue, a single hair plucked from Sapphiron's wing membrane while the worm sleeps. The hair is so fine it is almost a ray of night. I was told I cannot be killed while holding it. I was told many things that might be true. Kel'Thuzad stood close enough that the temperature of the air admitted him. His skull is a relic of arrogance that learned to be patient only after death. His crown hovers just above the bone like a promise that he can levitate anything. Cheaper than mercy. The runes along his jaw glow hissed with a syntax I have been taught not to understand. He pressed his hand, if we can call that cluster of bones a hand, toward the phylactery. The wards gobbled the air. My teeth ached. There, he said, pleased as if he had convinced a wild instrument to play its only correct note. He turned his skull toward me. Have you learned to weigh sins, Marrowe? Not categorize them. Weigh them. I have weigh scales, I said cautiously, thinking of the scale in the triage bay where we assign the living to conversion or unmaking. I weigh mass. I weigh blood. I weigh the time remaining before a soldier becomes a resource. Not pounds, he hissed. The ounce of betrayal versus the stone of obedience. You will learn. We are not savages. We are accountants. Bring me the cost of this sanctum, written in the language of breath. It is a terrible thing to be told to quantify sanctity. I carried a ledger with columns for reagents and for lives. I wrote with a stylus I sharpened with my teeth. I began a discipline of inventory I called the quiet ledger. It was not official. No one asked me to keep it. I kept it because the only rebellion I could afford was arithmetic. For every rung I chalked in the warding lattice, I listed the tongue it cost us to know. For every abomination conceived, I wrote the names those hands would have loved to touch. I wrote in the margins, the dead do not lose their appetites, only their menus. In the chambers beneath the necropolis, beneath even the construct quarter, where laughter is a kind of murder, there are vaults where ash drifts as if remembering the fire that made it. I slept there, on a grate, above a river of melt that is not water. In the distance, bells. Huygens' laughter. A choir of whispers from the spiders, where Myexna rules a city of silk. I learned to breathe in time with the necrotic motors, so that something in the air would believe I belonged. I triaged the living sometimes. There is a room called the Conversion Chapel because cruelty requires euphemism to be art. We lay them on clean tables. We tell them the truth in portions. You are recruited, I say, as if conscription has a horizon that ends. You are selected, I say, as if selection is not simply removal. I hold a priest's hand and ink a rune on his palm that tells the spell where to unmake him. Because I am kind, I choose the rune that leaves his tongue intact, so that he can tell me his daughter's name, until his mouth remembers only numbers. Kel'Thuzad walks among us sometimes, gliding, the hem of his robe shivering like a gale disturbs an ocean he forgot to fear. He pauses where the fear is most articulate. "Why are you here, Marrowe?" he asked once, not as a question, but as a required confession. "Because I did not die when your necropolis lifted the ground out from under my oath," I said. "Because I can mend veins with a needle, and you need someone to keep your playthings from spoiling before they are ready. Because I wanted to live, and then because I wanted to remember." "Memory is a cheap phylactery," he said. "It cracks under the breath of a winter you do not deserve. Serve, and I will let you pretend it is heavy. Defy, and I will make your name a rune that means void. You will not even be a footnote in my own diary of sins." There were others with me, acolytes whose names were more like coughs, a caretaker who burned incense made of dried lilies and powdered cartilage to sweeten the wards, a boy named Theron, who had been a scribe before the plague, turned ink into blood. He wrote too much like a human. He made the letters lean in as if they listened. We learned to emulate the clean, mechanical script the Lich craved. We unlearned flourish, which is a kind of hope. Theron told me he dreamed of a door in the bottom of the necropolis, a door that looked like bone, but felt like a sigh. He said it opened onto earth that was not stained. He said the door promised warmth. "What did it cost to dream that?" I asked him, because I had begun to weigh dreams. "I woke with a snowflake in my mouth," he said, "and my tongue bled a pattern like a small, sad star. I think the necropolis punishes warmth with geometry." We spoke of escape then, in the language of anatomy, because it is safer to talk of sinew than liberty. "If you remove the tendon here," I would say, tapping my wrist, "the hand will not close, even when commanded by a patient mind." He would nod, understanding the metaphor we refuse to call metaphor. If we could unstring one tendon from the necropolis, could it fail to clench? Kel'Thuzad listened, I think, through the ducts. He does not need spies. The necropolis itself is devout. It serves by echoing. The day of my open rupture came when I was instructed to tend the wards during the ritual, to refresh the Lich's bond to his phylactery. It is a ceremony like very few I have seen, and I am a man who has seen faith disassembled into its operational components. The phylactery hums with a sentence the mouth cannot form. The runes crowd around it like starving cats. The Lich speaks his names backward and then forward, and the air learns to carry him. The cost is always lives, but on this day he named particular lives. His finger, ribbed bone like a flute with holes for snarled sorcery, pointed at Theron. "You, scribe," he said, "your hand will remain behind when you go, and it will transcribe for me until the last ink dries." Theron's face did not change. That is the discipline you learn when your breath has been bought too many times to remember debt indignantly. He looked at me. He was smaller than me, and I was smaller than I had been. "Write the name of my mother in your quiet ledger," he said, "and if you ever see her, tell her I did not drop my pen." I had no permission to bargain. Bargaining is the one commerce Naxxramas hates, because it imitates the living. But rebellion rarely asks law for syntax. I stepped forward into the ward's bite. "My lord," I said, and the phrase tasted of metal. "Permit me to offer a substitution. The wards are temperamental. Better a hand trained to their temperament remain, while he continues to produce script suitable for your histories. My hand is steady. His excels at flattery of language. You need both. Use me." The silence that followed was not absence of sound. It was frost, hardening knowledge into a blade. Kel'Thuzad did not look surprised. The dead have no use for that particular waste of shift in expression. He did not even turn. Instead, his right hand rose, and a rune lifted from the floor like a moth freed from its corpse and fluttered around me, reading my willingness. "A servant must believe himself a servant," he said, almost gently. "If he believes himself savior, he becomes expensive. You are handy, Marrowe. That is a common virtue. But you also keep a ledger I did not ask you to keep." He turned then, and the fire in his eye sockets drew in, like he measured my heat. "Yes, you think I did not know. The quiet ledger. You will bring it to me when I ask, and you will let me weigh your weights." I lowered my head. I could feel the wards noticing the soft part of my throat. "I will bring it," I said, tasting blood because the cold makes gums honest. "You will remain," he said to me. And to Theron he said, "You will write until your hand forgets your name. Then you will become an instrument we tune for the military quarter. Do not honor yourself by expecting death." To me, as if awarding me a medal I did not earn, "You will tend the phylactery through this night. If it dims, I will instruct the necropolis to sing your nerves." We performed the ritual. The Lich spoke. The phylactery pulled at the room. I tasted the layers of his logic then, a millefeuille of hatred arranged with the precision of a surgeon who had turned pathology into desire. The lights went out in parts of the necropolis I had not yet seen, as if to feed the phylactery's hunger a darkness it could chew. The wards flexed. A rune cracked like ice, surrendering to river. I stepped in, repositioned a sliver of obsidian, bled into a groove that wanted donor blood, but would accept mine. The phylactery sang the correct pitch, the one that feels like a bell rung inside Marrowe. After, Kel'Thuzad dismissed us, as one dismisses rooms before leaving them. He shifted his presence to another chamber. Theron looked at me with eyes still his, thanked me without words, and returned to his desk to write the history he wanted to ruin by living through it. I went to my grate above the river and slept, or performed the motions of a body when it forgets the shapes of dreams. That night, the door Theron had named dreamed inside me. It was there in the bottom of the necropolis, a door shaped like a sigh. In the dream, I measured it. My hand against its surface left a film-like thaw. It opened onto earth. The earth smelled like rain meant for bread. I woke with my mouth full of iron-laced snow. I decided then that accounting must become sabotage, spoken in the grammar of numbers. If I could weigh ritual, I could weigh weakness. If I could weigh weakness, I could tax it. I began to mislabel. A gram subtracted here. A rune rotated 1 degree. This is skill. This is sin. They are adjacent in Naxxramas. The wards did not notice, because they are designed to notice the dramatic, not the careful. The Lich did not notice, because he believes that fear makes men clumsy. Fear, when trained, becomes a scalpel. My chance came 3 bells later. during a drill in the military quarter. Instructor Resuvius screamed order into a room that had to be quiet to obey. The Death Knights clanged their rune blades against a rhythm that made loyalty stay. I was there to take notes that would be translated into sigils for their armor, efficiency drawn as geometry. Kel'Thuzad arrived with a kind of joy I recognized in priests discovering a new heresy to hate. He levitated to the balcony above us and spoke in a voice that found each and every throat. "War remembers its instruments," he said. "But instruments do not remember war without a conductor. Watch me." He raised a hand and drew from the air a rune I had mispivoted in the sanctum. It hung like a toy, inverted just enough to redirect heat. I felt a wash of warmth that should not have existed, a brief scrim of spring across my mouth. For a heartbeat, memory bloomed. I smelled my father's bread oven. I heard my sister clatter plates on the morning of my name day. In that moment, half the room softened. Resuvius shouted. The Death Knights paused mid-step, as if rope slackened. I knew then that the misrotation worked. The wards would bleed warmth when called by that gesture, invisible to all but those who still remembered taste. It was a door inside a symbol. If I could coax enough of those into the geometry of Naxxramas, I might make a passage. Not a literal escape. We do not do literal here, but an exodus of the mind that would make behavior dangerous. Kel'Thuzad looked at me. He did not point. He did not accuse. He said one word with a tenderness that killed. Marrowe. After drill, I was summoned to the sanctum. The halls were quieter than usual, which means someone important was listening. I entered the circle of wards and felt them flex like predators, tasting fatigue and prey. Kel'Thuzad was there, with his phylactery humming like a secret too pleased with itself. "Bring me your ledger," he said. I handed it across the ward line, with tongs wetted on regret. He opened it with a gentleness that mocked. He read. He did not read. He absorbed. His fingers brushed my columns of costs. The runes stitched along his palm glimmered with a curiosity they never needed to conceal. He paused where I had written Theron's mother's name, where I had listed the ounces of mercy I smuggled by choosing runes that left tongues intact. "You think I did not notice the warmth?" he asked. I said nothing. There is a point where words are proof of crimes. "I noticed," he said. "I allowed it. Do you wonder why?" The answer was bruising the inside of my mouth. "Because you are not afraid of warmth," I said finally. "Because you think it decorates your cruelty by contrast. Because you think I will decorate it for you at no extra cost. And because," he continued, "it is useful. Warmth is bait. It draws vermin who think they can live in it. And then," his hand closed, not on me, but on my intention. "And then they serve with greater fervor for having been briefly allowed to remember what they have lost. Nostalgia is a rein tighter than iron." I felt something inside me tear, not a ligament, more like a vow. I realized he had seen my defiance before it existed fully. I realized he had cultivated it. He had given me the ledger, because what is a ledger but an official permission to count? He had given me Theron, because what is love in a place like this but a handle? "Do your math, Marrowe," he said. "Tell me, what is the cost of this illusion of hope you have smuggled into my house? It makes us dangerous if we believe in it long enough," I said, the words choosing me. "Hope is not a reaction. It is a strategy. Give someone a shape to step toward, and you have given them the ability to move even in chains. And yet," he said, "you stepped toward me." "I do not know another direction," I said quietly. "You have taught us a map so small It fits in your fist." He extended that fist, opened it, and inside I saw a rune coil, like a small animal, ready to pretend to be a word. "Here is your bargain, Aldren Marrowe, surgeon and counterfeit editor of fate. Stop seeding warmth. Continue counting. Continue choosing the runes that leave tongues intact. Continue saving names. Do this, and I will let you keep your memory. Defy me, and I will take your quiet ledger and empty it onto the floor, and your recollections will lick it up like dogs. You will remember hunger and nothing else." "How do I know you can take memory?" I asked, because desperation still wants evidence. He gestured to the side, and a shape materialized like a mistaken breath solidifying. It was Theron. His hand was missing. His face was the same, but empty of the manner in which he held it. He looked at the ledger in Kel'Thuzad's hand, as if it were a weather he could not name. He did not know me. His name was chalk written on slate under rain. He tilted his head, the way a bird listens for insects it cannot care to love. "Theron?" I asked stupidly. He smiled at the sound a mouth makes when it tries to open a door from the word side. "I am scribe," he said, and the word was a cage that had eaten the bird. "I write. I write. I write." Kel'Thuzad closed his hand, and Theron faded into the architecture of obedience. "I do not bluff," the Lich said. "It is a waste of theater." I thought then of the door inside my dream, and the geometry I had mislaid in the sanctum, and the warmth that had bloomed in the military quarter like the frost had imagined spring. The choice settled, with the heaviness of a body you must lift alone. "I will continue counting," I said. "I will not seed warmth where it will produce only bait, but I will not cease to leave the tongues intact." "You think that is rebellion?" He laughed, a sound like a chisel demonstrating stone's vanity. "I think that is art. Proceed." He dismissed me. I left, my hands empty of anything but their knowledge. In the following days, I worked. I weighed. I triaged. I listened to Hagen dance and laughed only inside where laughter could be illness. I watched patchwork clap and asked for more play with hands that had forgotten toys. I visited Lotheb's tank and thought of gardens that had learned to lust for rot. I performed the rituals Kel'Thuzad demanded with the efficiency he craved. I kept the tongues intact. Men spoke their mothers' names as they became instruments, and sometimes the instruments bent a note to resemble that name. It was not nothing. It was heavier. The necropolis continued. The bells tolled. The runes throbbed. The abominations pumped their humor like children show their drawings. The frostworm's breath carved poems into the air and then ate them. I lived between bells the way a drowning man lives between waves. I learned that the dead do not desire. They deploy. We, however, who recall the sensation of wanting, make of service a philosophy because it is easier than admitting we serve because we are afraid. One night, or something like night, the bells misfired. They rang a pattern I had not heard. The runes along the hallways flickered like insects trapped under glass, deciding whether to die all at once or politely by turns. We do not allow improvisation in Naxxramas. That is a living indulgence. But the necropolis shook like a beast asking to stretch. I was in the sanctum, alone with the wards, when the flicker thinned the lattice. I could see, through the veil, a bruise in the phylactery's song. The Lich was not present. His consciousness was elsewhere, bullying a town from inside a blizzard. I felt the door then, the one in the dream, pressing the inside of my mouth like a swallowed word. The warmth that had been my rebellion ignited not in the rune, but in me. It spread through the ward lines like a rumor with teeth. The phylactery dimmed for a heartbeat. If I had had a different heart, I would have shattered it then. If I had been a hero, I would have chosen to unmake a tyrant at the cost of my own name. But I thought of the tongues I had left intact. I thought of the names written there. I thought of Theron somewhere, writing without knowing the weight of letters. I thought of the price of failure if I half killed him. I looked at my hands and saw the surgeon I had been. Surgeons do not kill unless killing is the shape of cure. The cure here was not to break. It was to endure and to shepherd memory through a place designed to starve it. I reinforced the ward with a smear of my own blood, which the phylactery accepted like a patronized beggar. The song settled. I retuned the misrotated runes so they would not bleed warmth uncontrolled. I kept the door inside me. I buried it under ribs that had learned to cradle a different god. Kel'Thuzad returned soon after, with an air like he had licked lightning in a tantrum. He looked at the phylactery. He looked at me. His eye sockets narrowed, a mimicry of human suspicion that had become habit. "You could have tried," he said. "I could have," I agreed. "And you did not," he said. "Explain your calculation." "I am an accountant," I said. I weighed the ounce of hope against the stone of obedience leveraged into survival. I chose to be heavier, where it would not shatter the balance we rely upon to keep memory intact, long enough to do something honest with it. He leaned in, curious as a butcher considering a new cut. "What is honest?" "Remembering names while we carve them into useful shapes," I said, "refusing to let your story be the only one written in this house." He considered that, and his silence was the first mercy he had ever shown me. He did not kill me. He did not erase me. He laughed again, that chisel sound, and turned away. "Proceed, Marrowe," he said. "Keep your ledger. One day, I will ask you to read it aloud, and we will see if the music suits my taste." So I proceeded. I wake to bones counting me and fall asleep being counted. I dip my stylus in ash and ink names beside reagents. I tend to the wards, and when they bite me, I let them. I triage the living and choose runes that let them speak into the conversion. I talk to Theron when I can, even if he does not know me, because sometimes the wind through a crack sounds like a lost friend, and I think he hears. I speak with Kel'Thuzad when he summons me, and I let his questions cut new cavities where fear can live. He is my antagonist, my sovereign, the weather inside my lungs. I hate him with a clarification I reserve for instruments. I fear him with an admiration that is as dirty as hunger. I think often of Lordaeron, of tents that stank of sweat and life, of soldiers who bled honest and died in beds that were not altars. I think of bread, of soap, of sunlight that did not cost a name to borrow. Nostalgia is a rain, yes, but it is also a map. If I remember the way light looked on the edge of a blade held by a boy who had not yet learned rage, I remind the runes in my bones how to treat sharpness. If I recall the warmth of a hand placed on my shoulder by a superior who wanted me to learn, not obey, I find that I can instruct without commanding when I help an acolyte hold the tongs. That is small. That is petty. That is everything. The dead are patient. They wait for us to forget. We are patient too in our way. We wait for a shape to appear in the ice and call it passage. If you hear this, if my voice reaches you through ash and geometry, know that I am still counting. Know that beneath Naxxramas, beneath Kel'Thuzad's command, a command that rings like bells through bone, I have learned that servitude and memory share a spine. Break one, and the other collapses. Preserve one, and perhaps the other will carry you farther than obedience intends. I will not promise escape. That word has lost its grammar here. I will promise the accounting. The ledger is real. The names are written. The tongues we left intact speak into the stone and make it vibrate in ways it did not intend. When the Lich finally asks me to read my figures aloud, I will do so with the steadiness of a hand that has stitched men closed for love and for terror. I will pronounce the names as if they are reagents that might, in the correct proportion, curtsy out of this house of ice. And if he laughs, if he claps, if he drains my memory into a chalice shaped like a skull that never learned thirst, then perhaps the echo of those names will haunt the wards, will become a hum the phylactery cannot fully drink. I am Aldren Marrowe, surgeon unmade and remade, servant beneath the necropolis, under Kel'Thuzad's command. I am his clerk of sins and his reluctant ward keeper. I write this with a stylus sharpened on my teeth, on a page that was once a part of a back that knew the weight of a hand. I record the cost of a sanctum whose music eats its own echo. The bells are tolling. The runes are rehearsing. The frost worm turns in its sleep and dreams of glaciers. The spiders weave their tidy arithmetics. Patchwork wants to play. Vesuvius drills the dead until they remember to pretend. Kel'Thuzad floats where a king would sit and counts with me without ever lowering his hand to the page. The dead remember. I remember. Between those two remembrances, there is a space so small it is almost a door. If you press your palm against the cold with me, perhaps you will feel it. Perhaps together we can count aloud until the hinge learns the sound of a name spoken without fear. And if not, if counting is all we have, then I will count until the ash drifts into shapes I can love, and the bells, finally, ring me into a quiet that weighs less than obedience and more than forgetting. Between those two remembrances, there is a space so small it is almost a door. I find myself pressing against it sometimes, a reflex of the soul rather than the hand. The stone gives nothing back, but it listens. That is enough. Listening, after all, is a kind of rebellion in Naxxramas. It suggests that one expects an answer. The next cycle began with the tolling of the bells in a sequence I had never heard. 3 low, 1 high, 2 half-beats of silence. The necropolis shifted its weight above the world, and all of us felt the tilt. Somewhere below or above, directions are meaningless here. The construct quarter laughed itself awake. I knew what that rhythm meant. A reallocation. Reallocation is what the Lich calls it when he decides that a servant's hands, or eyes, or entire vocation would serve a different purpose. You do not request reassignment in Naxxramas. You are harvested for it. Childless, the abomination who kept the bone forges was to be divided. He had become inefficient, Kel'Thuzad said. His lullabies distracted the workers. There was truth in that. The hum of his tunes had become the only music softer than chains. And so, when the bells stopped, we found him already lying on the table, arms neatly folded, as if he had decided to volunteer for the knife. His voice box still clicked out small syllables. Ma, ma, ma. I was told to record the process. I stood with my stylus while 2 necromancers took him apart like men emptying a coffin for new tenants. His flesh steamed. The room smelled of copper and fat, of salt and resignation. I wrote each step down, not because I was ordered to, but because I had learned that if I didn't record what I saw, the silence would rewrite it for me. When it was over, The overseer, a pale creature called Ulgor, dipped his hand into the abomination's chest cavity and drew out a lump of darkened marrow. "For the vats," he said. "He will return as children." That night, I added a line to my quiet ledger. Childless, disassembled for efficiency. Song displaced, but not extinguished. I told myself that writing his name preserved something. I told myself that lies were scaffolds for the truth I could not yet build. Kel'Thuzad appeared 3 bells later. His entrance never needs announcement. The air announces him. The frost grows polite in his presence, standing up straighter. I was recalibrating the wards when the hum thickened. He drifted through the doorway, his robes trailing a darkness so thin it looked like memory forgetting itself. "Marrowe," he said, "do you know what a rumor is?" I had learned long ago that he did not ask questions for information. He asked to measure hesitation. "A distortion that wishes to become truth," I said carefully. He tilted his skull. "Elegant. The plague quarter breeds them. One hears that a door has opened in my sanctum, that the wards were sympathetic, that a certain surgeon taught them how to sigh. Have you heard this rumor?" I could have lied, but lies are only useful when you believe you deserve survival. "I have heard something shaped like that, my lord. And I study its anatomy, so I might excise it properly." The Lich chuckled, a sound like thin ice cracking over a slow river. "Good. Rumors are infections of belief. I enjoy infections when I can chart them. Continue your studies and report the next symptom to me before it grows teeth." He drifted closer. I could see the faint shimmer of his phylactery's link within his ribs, a pulse that was not light, not magic, something older. "You understand, Marrowe, that everything which lives in this necropolis, including ideas, belongs to me. Even hope, especially hope." "I do understand." He lingered. "And yet," he murmured, "I sometimes wonder if you catalog me as well." I said nothing. "I will allow it," he said finally. "A servant who records his master creates a mirror. I have always admired mirrors that know when to look away." He left. The temperature rose by a degree. I realized my hands were trembling, and that the wards had hummed during his visit with a rhythm suspiciously similar to my own heartbeat. In the following weeks, I began to notice small discrepancies in the necropolis's behavior. The bells mistimed by fractions of a second. The plague vats bubbled in patterns that matched the rhythm of a heart at rest. The acolytes whispered to one another, using fragments of sentences that seemed to originate from no mouth. Something was stirring. Not rebellion, but recognition. "The dead remember," I wrote again. "But sometimes they begin to ask why." One evening, while cataloging failed reanimations, I found a body that refused to decompose. The cadaver was small, perhaps a boy of 12. His skin bore frostbite, but no rot. His eyes were open, glassy, staring at the ceiling as if it offered arithmetic. There was a rune carved into his chest, one I had never seen. Curved, spiral, incomplete. I traced it with a gloved finger. The edges were warm. I felt, for an instant, a pulse. I brought the discovery to my overseer, Ulgor, who scowled. "Discard it," he said. "Unfinished work. Someone's mistake." But I did not discard it. I marked it as Specimen 317B, inert, to be studied for potential reuse. I hid it beneath my workstation, among the jars of reagent ash. That night, when the necropolis slept, if such a place can sleep, I returned. The rune on the boy's chest glowed faintly, and when I leaned close, I heard a sound. Not breathing, not a heart. A whisper. One word. Below. I should have destroyed him then. Instead, I wrote the word in my ledger and fell asleep beside him, listening. Over the next cycles, the whisper grew clearer. Below, it repeated, and sometimes, door. I began to believe the boy was dreaming of the same thing I had seen, the psi-shaped door at the bottom of Naxxramas. Perhaps he was the echo that had called me toward it. My tasks continued. Kel'Thuzad demanded reports on the stability of the phylactery. He suspected, he said, that the air itself was learning individuality. He tasked me with observing behavioral drift in the lesser undead. I conducted dissections, interviews, and inspections with the precision of a priest performing penance. The results were consistent. The dead were beginning to remember themselves. A ghoul recited part of a prayer. Abomination asked me to identify the color blue. One of the plague scientists wept when I handed him a scalpel, though he could not say why. I feared that my ledger had become a contagion. Then, one night, the door opened. Not physically, but within the air. The temperature dropped so suddenly, the glass in the jars cracked. I turned, and there he was, the boy, standing, the rune on his chest blazing like a small sun frozen mid-flare. He looked at me. His mouth moved, but his voice came from everywhere. "Below," he said. "It waits." The wards screamed. That is the only word for it. A noise like 1,000 souls discovering they were still capable of pain. I fell to my knees. The phylactery shuddered within its cradle, and for the first time since I had served here, I saw fear flicker through the necropolis itself. Kel'Thuzad arrived instantly, a surge of frost and fury. He extended his hand toward the boy. The rune on the child's chest flared brighter, and the lich's spell recoiled. "Marrowe," he thundered. "Explain this infection." "I do not know," I gasped. He was inert, a failed liar. His voice made the walls contract. "You have been breeding memory." The boy turned toward him. "You cannot cage what was never yours," he said, though his mouth did not move. Kel'Thuzad's hand clenched. The phylactery screamed back. The air thickened with the scent of ozone, and ancient things burned alive. I saw cracks appear in the runes along the floor, small as veins at first, then wider, spilling light that was neither holy nor necrotic, something in between. The lich recoiled, not from fear, but from calculation. "Marrowe," he said softly, almost admiringly. "You have opened a seam between remembrance and obedience. Do you understand what that means?" I shook my head. "It means," he whispered, "that you have made me mortal for one breath." He extended his arm again, and this time his spell struck true. The boy dissolved into a mist of frost and ash. The cracks sealed themselves with a sound like weeping reversed. When the silence returned, Kel'Thuzad turned to me. "You will catalog every trace of this phenomenon," he said. "You will find its origin. You will destroy it. And if you cannot, I will use you as its vessel." He vanished, leaving frost etched into the shape of his contempt. I staggered to the floor, still shaking. The rune's afterglow lingered on my retinas, a spiral of warmth eating its own tail. I knew then that the boy had not died. He had returned to the place beneath the necropolis, the place even Kel'Thuzad did not fully own. That night, I dreamed of the door again. It was wider now, and the sigh behind it had become a voice. Not words, but tone. Patient, grieving, endless. I woke with my hands pressed against the floor. frost blooming under my palms in the exact shape of the rune. From that point forward, Naxxramas began to change paths. The frost grew softer, less cruel. The bells occasionally misrung to form chords that sounded almost human. The undead moved with hesitation, as though listening for something beneath their orders. Even Kel'Thuzad grew silent, appearing less often, retreating into chambers none of us dared enter. The other acolytes spoke in whispers of a sickness of memory. They said those who caught it began to dream. Dreaming is forbidden in Naxxramas. It implies futures. I caught it, of course. At first, the dreams were simple. A field, a sky unbroken by architecture, the weight of sunlight like an unspoken apology. Then faces. My sister, Theron as he had been, childless, humming. Finally, the boy, standing before the door, beckoning. "Below," he said, "where even the dead are allowed to rest." I began to write less and listen more. The ledger's pages filled themselves, words appearing in my script while I slept. The entries spoke of a place beneath the necropolis where the names of the dead gather, waiting to be remembered into freedom. When Kel'Thuzad finally summoned me again, I was ready for whatever shape his wrath would take. He waited in the sanctum, phylactery pulsing like a heart fed on silence. "You have infected my creation," he said without turning. "Do you deny it?" "No," he faced me. "Then tell me, what does it want?" "Release," I said. "Not rebellion. Rest. Rest is death. It is mercy. Mercy is a weapon of the light. You would bring that poison here?" I met the hollow sockets where his eyes should be. "Perhaps the light left traces, even in the shadows you built." For a long moment, he was utterly still. Then he laughed, and the laughter filled every vein of the necropolis. "Fascinating," he said. "Perhaps we will let this infection grow. Perhaps it will teach us the final truth of control." He waved his hand, dismissing me. "Go below, Marrowe. Find your door. Record what you see. Bring me its language." The command was both permission and threat. I obeyed. The way down was a maze of forgotten corridors, each older than the next. The architecture shifted from ice to bone to something like salt. The air thickened with the scent of endings. I carried a lamp powered by a shard of necrotic crystal. Its light was green, sickly, but it held back the dark. I descended past the ossuaries, past the vats, past the place where Childless had sung himself apart. At the lowest vault, I found the door. It was exactly as I had dreamed. Bone and sigh. Immense, yet thin as faith. Runes drifted across its surface like frost, trying to decide where to settle. The warmth that emanated from it was gentle, like breath on glass. I touched it, and the world changed. Sound collapsed into a single tone. The pitch of mourning held forever. I felt myself unspool, memory by memory. My father's laughter, the weight of a scalpel, the smell of linen after battle. They did not vanish. They arranged themselves into music. I was not dissolving. I was being catalogued. And then, a voice. Not Kel'Thuzad's, not the boy's. Something larger, older. "Do you wish to leave?" I hesitated. The question was not about geography. It was about belonging. "I wish to remember," I said. "Then you must remain." I understood. To leave would be to forget, to become another silent resource of the necropolis. To remain would be to hold memory in place, to keep the infection alive. When I opened my eyes, I was still before the door. The rune on my palm glowed faintly, the same spiral as the boy's chest. I returned to the sanctum and wrote everything down. Kel'Thuzad read it all without interruption. When I finished, he nodded once. "You have seen what even I could not," he said. "A tomb for memory itself. You have become its custodian." He raised his hand, and the rune on my palm sank into my flesh. "You will never die, Marrowe. You will remain here, beneath my necropolis, tending the door that separates recollection from decay. You wish to remember. Now you will never be forgotten." He left me there, in the quiet below the frost. That was many cycles ago, perhaps centuries. Time is soluble here. I keep my ledger still, though the pages have become the walls themselves. Each name I ever wrote hums softly, keeping the necropolis from absolute silence. Sometimes I hear the boys' laughter. Sometimes Theron's quill scratching at invisible parchment. And sometimes, rarely, I hear Kel'Thuzad himself, murmuring equations of eternity, unaware that the infection of memory has already reached his phylactery. Because the rune he burned into me was not his alone. I twisted it gently before it settled. It now hums a note he cannot hear, a note that reminds the frost that once, long ago, it was water. The dead are patient. The dead remember. And beneath the necropolis, I wait. The surgeon who became an accountant, the servant who became a witness, the custodian of the sigh-shaped door. I weigh each new soul that arrives, and when the balance is right, I open the door a little wider. Someday, it will open all the way, and Naxxramas will sigh itself empty, exhaling every memory it ever devoured. On that day, perhaps even Kel'Thuzad will remember what warmth felt like. Until then, I write. I weigh. I listen. The bells ring. The frost hums. The dead whisper their own names. And I, Aldren Marrowe, remain trapped beneath the necropolis, patient, remembering, waiting for the door to finish learning how to open. I have forgotten the rhythm of sleep. There is only waking, and a thinner waking inside it. The necropolis breathes above me, a colossal lung of ice and sin, inhaling the stench of worlds. When it exhales, I hear the memories it cannot digest. They drift down here like motes of ash, voices, promises, the muffled laughter of priests who still believe the light will forgive them for surviving. I catch them in jars and catalog them by tone. The ledger has changed. I no longer write upon parchment. The walls themselves absorb my script. Each line glows for a while, then fades into the stone, as though the necropolis were trying to forget, but could not quite manage it. The words hum when I touch them. Sometimes they hum back melodies I never wrote. I am no longer alone. The door, that vast sigh sealed in bone, calls others. The acolytes who dream find their way down here, drawn by a gravity of longing. They come shivering, uncertain, their eyes bright with something dangerously close to faith. They kneel before the door, as though expecting deliverance, and I tell them the truth. There is no release, only remembrance. You may rest, but you will not leave. Some accept this, some break. Those who break, I send back upward, their minds cracked open just enough to leak memory into the halls above. They will infect others, as I was infected. The Lich believes himself immune, but infection is patient. It wears eternity like armor. Occasionally, Kel'Thuzad visits me. He never crosses the threshold. Even he respects the geometry of this place. He floats before the door like a priest before an altar, studying the runes that writhe across its surface. They change when he arrives. They spell shapes I cannot read, as if mocking him. "Still waiting?" he asks, each time the same. "Yes, my lord." "And what have you learned?" That memory breeds form. The more we remember, the more the necropolis forgets its own architecture. It softens. He smiles, or the bones of his face arrange themselves into an imitation of approval. Good. Let it soften. Softness is malleability, a weapon we can aim. You think this can be controlled? He inclines his head. Everything can be controlled, given the correct equation. Even the desire to rest? His sockets glow colder. Especially that. It is the desire that makes mortals predictable. You would be amazed how many wars have been won by offering peace at the correct moment. He leaves then, leaving behind frost that doesn't quite settle, as if even the cold doubts him now. There are days when I almost pity him. He has forgotten that control is merely fear, disciplined into mathematics. He measures everything but the weight of his own name. I measure that daily. It is growing lighter. The door whispers more often now. The sigh has become words, faint and mournful. It speaks in the voices of those who died to build this place. Mages, soldiers, farmers, children. They tell me their names, and I add them to the wall. The necropolis shakes with every new entry, as though struggling against the burden of memory. Once, as I wrote, I felt a tremor unlike the others, rhythmic, distant, a heartbeat. It took me a moment to realize it was not coming from me. It was coming from above. The phylactery. I climbed. The corridors were strange, slick with frost that melted as I touched it. The bells were silent. The air smelled of smoke, not plague. When I reached the sanctum, I found Kel'Thuzad standing before his phylactery, motionless. The crystal pulsed red, not blue. He turned when I entered. "Marrowe," he said, his voice slow, weighted. "Do you feel it?" "Yes." "The infection has reached the heart of me." He laughed softly. "How poetic. To be undone by the very arithmetic I once trusted." I studied the phylactery. Within it, faint shapes moved. Not spirits, but memories. Faces I recognized. Theron, childless, the boy, even fragments of my own reflection, all turning slowly like leaves caught in water. "You cannot destroy it now," I said. Nor would I. Look at them. So orderly, so obedient even in reminiscence. I have made of eternity a choir. "They are not singing," I said. "They are remembering themselves." He looked almost proud. "Then perhaps that is music too." He placed a hand on the phylactery, and his fingers burned. He did not withdraw. "You once accused me of lacking fear," he murmured. "But fear is the only thing I have ever respected. It is honest. It tells the truth of all things that live. And yet now I find I fear not oblivion, but remembering. That is your gift to me, Marrowe. I meant it as a mercy. There is no mercy here, only exchange. You gave me remembrance. I will give you something in return." He turned to me. "The necropolis drifts toward ruin. Its wards decay. The Scourge above falters without my perfect attention. Soon, the world will come for us again. Paladins, priests, the self-righteous. They will destroy what remains, and you will be buried with your door, unless you leave. I cannot. You bound me here. I can unbind you. Why?" He stared into the phylactery. because even I will need someone to remember what I was, once this place is ash." He drew a rune in the air. It hovered, shimmering, its lines flickering between frost and flame. "Take this. It will unmoor you from my command. But there is a cost. There always is. You will carry the infection beyond these walls. Wherever you go, memory will fester. The living will dream as the dead do. Do you wish to burden the world with that?" I thought of the boy, of the door, of the scythe that had promised rest. I thought of Lord Huron's fields, the children who would never know peace while men like Kel'Thuzad ruled the margins of life. I thought of Theron, writing endlessly without meaning. "Yes," I said, "the world should remember." He laughed again, weary this time. "Then go, my faithful heretic." The runes struck my chest like a breath. The chains around my spirit cracked. I fell to my knees, gasping. When I rose, the lich was gone. Only the phylactery remained, pulsing red, its hum now deep as sorrow. I left the sanctum. The necropolis groaned around me, its corridors warping. The walls bled light. The bells tolled once, a single note that lasted forever. The infection was complete. As I climbed toward the upper vaults, I saw the dead kneeling, whispering to one another. Not prayers, not orders, memories. One ghoul told another of the taste of rain. An abomination recited the name of the man he had been. Even the frost worm Sapphiron coiled upon itself, its wings trembling as if dreaming of sky. I reached the outer gates. The world beyond was in motion, armies gathering, banners of the argent dawn gleaming against the pale horizon. Light lanced upward, striking the necropolis's underbelly. The stones screamed. I turned back once. The door below was open now, wide enough to exhale mist. Through it poured the shapes of souls, not fleeing, not attacking, simply walking into the air like a tide retreating from shore. They brushed past me, gentle, murmuring gratitude. When I stepped through the final arch, the frost clung to me like a memory refusing to die. The air outside was blinding. Snow fell, but it was warm. I descended the ropes the argent dawn had cast against the floating citadel. A paladin met me at the base, sword drawn. His armor gleamed with the light, and yet his eyes widened with confusion. "Who are you?" he asked. I almost said my name, but the syllables felt distant, unnecessary. "A witness," I said. He looked past me at the necropolis. "What happened in there?" "It remembered itself," I said. Behind me, Naxxramas groaned one last time. The runes along its hull flared crimson, then gold. For a heartbeat, I heard the sigh, immense, relieved. Then, the entire fortress began to collapse, not in ruin, but in release. The bones unraveled into ash. The frost turned to rain. The bells fell silent. The paladin lowered his sword. "By the light," he whispered. "It's ending." "No," I said. "It's resting." He wanted to question me further, but the rain distracted him. It carried with it faint whispers, laughter, names, songs. The memories were leaving, scattering like seeds. I walked away. Each step left no print. The rune Kel'Thuzad had given me glowed under my ribs, warm and patient. Wherever I passed, frost softened, and those I met later would tell me they dreamed that night of a door made of sighs, of a man writing in the dark, of a necropolis turning into light. Years may have passed since then. Time outside is less forgiving than time within. I have wandered across ruined kingdoms, tending to the places where memory gathers too thickly. I whisper the names from my ledger into the wind, so they might find peace in dispersion. Sometimes, in the quiet hours before dawn, I feel him, Kel'Thuzad, watching. Not in malice, in curiosity. I think he still exists somewhere, bound to the fragments of his phylactery. I think he envies me. I think he is remembering. I have become what he made me, an accountant of souls, a surgeon of remembrance. Wherever the dead begin to forget, I appear. I weigh them. I remind them. And when the balance is right, I open the door that now follows me. Invisible, a sigh waiting behind my every breath. The world above believes the Scourge ended with the fall of Naxxramas. They do not understand that memory cannot die. It only migrates. In the ruins of Stratholme, I have heard the cobblestones hum. In the forests of Kel'Thuzad, the leaves whisper in voices long gone. Even in Stormwind's cathedrals, I have seen priests pause mid-prayer, as though someone had just spoken their childhood name. That is my doing. That is the infection of remembrance. One evening, while tending a graveyard near Andorhal, I saw a small girl place a flower on a grave. She lingered, lips moving. I asked her whose grave it was. "My brother," she said. "He died in the war. But sometimes, when I dream, he tells me stories. He says a man named Marrowe writes them down for him." I almost wept. Instead, I wrote her name in the soil. Lisa Marrowe. My sister's child, though she would never know me. The infection had reached her too. Gentle, kind, inevitable. I left that night, walking east until the air tasted of salt. The sea was calm, the horizon bruised with twilight. I sat upon a rock and opened my ledger, the last page still blank. I wrote, "The dead are patient, the dead remember. The living forget too quickly. So I will be the hinge between them, the breath that keeps both honest. My name is Aldren Marrowe. I served beneath the Necropolis. I served under Kel'Thuzad. I served memory itself. And though I am free, I remain its servant." I closed the book. The sea sighed, echoing the door's old voice. I understood then that the sigh had never been a summons. It was gratitude. Sometimes, when I sleep, or what passes for sleep, I dream of Naxxramas, whole again but empty, floating above a world that has learned to forgive itself. The halls are quiet, the phylactery dark. The door stands open, wind moving through it like a lullaby. In that dream, Kel'Thuzad stands beside me. No longer a lich, not yet a man. He watches the light spill through the bone arches and says, "We did well, you and I. We counted everything." I do not answer. I wake before I can. The infection of memory spreads still. You feel it now, don't you? The weight behind these words, the way your mind searches for names you have forgotten. That is how it begins. The door opens a fraction wider each time someone listens. I am still beneath it, in a sense. The necropolis may have fallen, but its shadow remains, cast not upon the ground, but upon thought. When you recall the face of the dead and feel them near, that is me. The surgeon keeping the connection clean, the servant maintaining the ward between oblivion and memory. I am not your enemy. I am what your remembering makes of me. The wind shifts. I can almost hear bells, faint, frostbitten, patient. They no longer toll for command, but for recollection. They ring because somewhere, someone is whispering a name that has been silent too long. When I hear that sound, I know the infection lives on, gentle as warmth beneath ice. I stand, feeling the weight of the rune under my ribs. It has grown lighter, almost gone. Perhaps soon, I will open the door for the last time and step through, not to escape, but to rest. Until then, I walk, I write, I weigh. The ledger is the world now, and every breath is a new entry. If you should ever find yourself in a place where the air hums softly, where frost melts though no sun shines, speak aloud the name of someone you miss. If the silence answers, if the air sighs, know that I am there, counting with you. The dead are patient. The dead remember. And so do I.